Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. Hate watching Captain America with old man Andy.
I'm like the Red Hulk.
Is that what you are?
That's what
I think
am.
Red Skull is what you meant. Just Red Skulling your way through Captain America.
Today we are talking about Minute 94, which begins with flames and a motorcycle jump and ends with an imprisoned Steve being brought into Schmidt's office lab. Back on the show, it is Jay Shepard. Hello, Jay.
Hey, guys. Glad to be here.
Do you know, since we're talking locations and we're at this point, we're at the exterior of the Hydra headquarters. Obviously, the big cement structure at the head is, digital. But
yeah.
Do you know if the actual fight that they have in here was filmed in kind of the same woods that they were filming the motorcycle chase in?
I don't know for certain. That is kind of my assumption that it is around the Bourne Woods area where they were filming the previous stuff. Though I also wouldn't put it past them to have probably put up something in the back lot of the studio that they were filming at in London there, and just have because they've got the vehicles around, right? They can hide kind of the fact that they're on a back lot and just throw a bunch of dirt down.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what we see here. Is like there's vehicles surrounding everything that's happening here. There's a big digital mountain wall. Kind of on one end. We do see some trees, but all of that could be digitally added in here if they just filmed this.
Yeah, the trick with modern movies is, there's so much stuff that's digital. Even when you think you can see a sign on a street, right? You're like, oh, well, this street says it's blah. I don't even trust those anymore. And sometimes they don't digitally alter them, and I don't end up checking the signs as my first gut instinct anymore, and then it takes me longer to find a location. That happened in She-Hulk. I didn't think that the sports bar in the very first episode would actually be called whatever the sports bar was called. I thought it was such a stupid name. It's an actual sports bar in south of Atlanta. Sorry, guys.
The real thing.
Never trust your instincts, kids. Never trust your instincts.
Yeah. It's just how much of a budget do they have, or how much of a time crunch do they have? I think that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. And a scene like this, I mean, this is a big action sequence. I mean, who knows how involved Johnston was for much of this. A lot of this likely was shot with the second unit. So they could have been filming some of this even in California, where they did some of their reshoots, So, I mean, who knows? Yeah,
some of the reshoots, I know some of the reshoots were actually the Camp Lehigh stuff.
Yeah.
That was some of the reshoots that they did in California. But
right.
Yeah, that's the thing. When they do a reshoot, and for my site, MC Location Scout, do I really say this, 2-second shot of dirt that you can't really see anything? I know that for the fact this was a reshoot that was shot in Los Angeles instead of London. At that point, it probably doesn't really matter. I mean, really, I think people who come to a site like that looking for, they're looking for the big set pieces, right? Where was this really shot on Tower Bridge, or was this really shot in Westminster Abbey or something like that? Or did they find something else?
Yeah, right. Well, regardless, the way that this particular minute and the entry of Steve into this Hydra compound is pretty cool, and it does make me also think of the 70s TV movie with Steve on his motorbike jumping out of that helicopter, because we've got a pretty fantastic little motorcycle stunt here as he drives up the conveniently diagonal wall of this cement structure out front and over it, and landing in the inside the compound as he starts taking on the Hydra troopers. I love the little motorcycle entrance here.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to complain now? I thought you were going to be like, oh, it's so cool. I love motorcycle stunts. No. So Pete's on his grumpy front porch now.
You wanted more a minute ago. Yeah.
I have no problem with the stunts. I love the jump. I'm in on the jump. My problem is, you said it, the conveniently ramped like protective guarded wall. Like that is just like who designed that? Like,
well,
why would you?
It's German architecture. It flows with the mountain aesthetics that they have set up, right? So it's built into the mountains. It's supposed to emulate the Alps.
Here's the problem.
Are you not seeing that?
You're kind of a serious guy, and so it takes me a minute to know when you're BSing me. And so I think you are right now. I just want to go on the record. It's terrible. It should have been inverted. He should never have been able to ramp his way up that. I'll tell you what I wanted, more springy rope effects, swinging the whole motorcycle over the wall. I would have been down for that. But the whole rampy thing, and that just it took me out of the movie. It made me think this is the worst secret lair ever.
So if they had put spikes on it, like to keep the pigeons off, then you would have been okay with that.
Yes, Jay, yes, fixed it. You fixed it for
and
me.
then
More
Steve
spikes.
could have blasted them with a rocket to like get rid of all the spikes to protect his tires. That would have been great.
I think the other thing that we've learned is that Andy yesterday can no longer be trusted in discerning buttons and functions because he gets so mad that he can no longer see which buttons and functions are being pushed.
So he uses his foot in this one, right?
Now, Jay, take this seriously. In this one, he uses his right hand, his right thumb on the top left switch, which I believe activates the autopilot function and then pushes the button on the bottom to turn it on. Is that what we think? This is like straight up early Tesla technology, if I'm reading this right.
That's basically what happens here, yes.
Okay.
Somehow
and I don't think he's pushed those buttons in those combinations before.
Correct. Well, because before, with his right hand, which is what he's using here, he pushed the top right button and then the bottom left button. The top right switch and the bottom left button.
Bottom left button.
And here it's the top left switch and the bottom center button. So yes.
What we need to do is find whatever the equivalent of the Captain America cosplayer is that has built this bike based on the screenshots from the movie and double check, so we could see it in its entirety.
Right. I'd like to also make sure that there's a manual that goes along with it so you know exactly which buttons and which.
Have they done a Haynes manual for the Captain America bike? I know they've got one for like the Millennium Falcon.
You're
Somebody needs
right.
to. Somebody needs to.
This needs to have. It wouldn't have to be a very long manual either.
No,
I mean there are only like 8 functions. Yeah.
Right.
There's 5 different switches on each side, and so that makes me. And there's obviously a combination pattern, like top right, bottom left, top left, bottom central. It's like if he does things in different orders, does that make other things happen? There's a whole
one might think, Andy, and I'm not suggesting anything overtly, but one might think this would be the right cause for a spreadsheet to determine the totality, the number of functions and cross functions that you could achieve. I don't know if
you know how to win my heart.
So you're a spreadsheet kind of guy. I see. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I see it already. So beautiful.
And beautiful. How?
That's right. Okay, so before the motorcycle takes off on its own, I want to talk a little bit about Steve and the actions that are going on here. First of all, there are Hydra troopers everywhere. They all have the arnimulation weapons that they're all running around with, and I have to say that every time I see them.
Did Jay know that? I mean, he didn't.
Fantastic.
He didn't show any sort of look on his face. If that was the first time,
I think the video's frozen. What?
It's my favorite thing. That's like the legit name. The Arnimulation. Say it again.
Arnimulation 99L assault weapons.
Yeah. Whoa, where did you pull that from?
That's from the Marvel Wiki. Yeah.
You might ask.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dr. Arnim Zola designed that along with the Zolanator 2000X assault rifle.
All right.
Yeah, which you also see here, but most of the troopers have the Arnimulation 99L. That's the one that blasts the blue stuff.
That's a little out of my purview. So, but that's interesting stuff.
We need to talk to the folks over at the IMFDB, the Internet Movie Firearms Database, and make sure that they start listing these completely made up weapons,
made up guns. I think that would really level up the site. I'm sure they would love to hear from us.
I'm sure they would. I know this whole thing happens very quickly. The minute Steve lands on his motorbike, we're at 6 seconds into the film, and the very first shot of him racing past everybody it ends at 9 seconds. So we have a 3-second shot of Steve on his motorbike as he first lands here. But I just have to point out some stuff that you start noticing when you're doing one of these shows minute by minute. One, there suddenly, out of nowhere, are 3 Hydra troopers who are on top of the very wall that Steve just jumped over. How they got there so quickly, where they came from, I have no idea. But there are 3 of them, and they're blasting at him, blowing stuff up. The other thing that I think is funny is that over the course of this 3-second shot, you see 3 troopers get taken down. One of them gets hit presumably by the explosion from a blast that one of the guys on the top of the wall shoots. The other 2, though, like there's nothing that hits them. And it's one of these moments where, again, everything's happening so quick, you're never going to notice unless you're scrubbing through it frame at a time. But it looks like they were designed to get hit by things that just never got put in. So there's one on the right who in front of a truck, and he just kind of crumbles to the ground. And then there's another on the left who's taking aim at Steve. And as Steve goes by, suddenly he looks like he gets hit from the back and just falls over. It's very funny. And again,
so Ant-Man was helping him out.
No, yeah, right. This would be it couldn't be Michael Douglas. This would have to be his. There would have to be an invented precursor to him, even. But yeah, it's possible.
I don't know that there was a small Ant character at this time in the Marvel timeline, even in the comics. So
yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, it's just
I mean, things. I think the case that they would probably be making. I think if Joe Johnson were here today, our friend Joe, friend of the show, were here today, he would say, "Well, it's obviously the concussive blast of the like explosion behind them that's just knocking these Hydras." I can't even say it seriously. They just fall down. That's
I would
what
buy
we're
that
trying to say.
If some of the other ones who are back there also fell down, but there are others who are standing up.
They're stronger. They were alpha soldiers, Andy. They're just stronger people.
Oh, all right. Well, okay. So Steve sends the bike on his way, and then he does this fantastic dive off of it. He hops up, grabs his shield, and he dives at a trooper who's standing up on top of a tank and takes him down with the shield to the chest. I love the move, honestly. And we haven't celebrated it at all at this point. I would like to call out the stunt work throughout last minute, this minute. It's fantastic. There are some seriously fantastic stunt people that are doing some amazing things here.
Amazing things. And it really lends to, I mean, the whole purpose of this minute is the straight up Steve against many, like, brawler effect that we get, and how he uses this shield to such great effect. Like, there are a lot of guys, and he's got to get in the thing, and we get a lot of the pinballing shield. And that, I mean, I think at this point in the movie, this goes back to our central argument about how Marvel introduces us to new, shiny, superhero-y stuff. From episode 1 of Iron Man, you've got to earn your wizards, right? They show us enough going on that's soldiery in this movie, and then we believe more thoroughly when they do the stuff that seems like magic. And that's what we get in this minute, using the shield, because we believe how much of a soldier he is already, and the shield's been in action a little bit. When he does things that are remarkable, the shield doesn't take us out of the movie.
And this is the stuff I was waiting for. I mean, this is the elements of the Captain America comic that I always loved the most, was, when he would throw his shield and it would, ping, pang, pang across, 3 different, surfaces and strike some guy in the back of the head, and it's all within, that millisecond where, he has to deflect something, and then he throws it knowing that he's not going to get shot as soon as he loses his shield. But this is just one of those really cool superhero moments that's more definitively Captain America than the motorcycle stuff we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like they were still trying to figure out how are we going to do the boomeranging nature of the shield at this point, because I feel like later in the franchise, as it boomerangs around, it comes back so much more directly to him. And both times in this minute when he tosses the shield at somebody, it's like it bounces up into the air and Steve looks up and catches it as it comes down. And I think that's just an interesting element that I feel like they've kind of later decided, you know what, let's come up with another way to do this, where it actually, he's so in tune with the shield that he can not only hit 2 or 3 other things, but also on its return, it shoots directly back to him for him to catch it.
Like,
or it's the magnets.
Yeah. Or it's the
it's
stronger magnet. I need some better magnets here. Yeah.
There is a move in this one where he throws the shield, it bounces off a tank, and then he throws a guy up in the air. And I think if this were Civil War, the shield would have come back and hit the guy in the air. Like, that would have been him Babe Ruthing and calling his shot. And it doesn't here. And I think that's good, because I think, to your point, they're still figuring it out. But they didn't go full Russo on the way the shield works. And I think that's good here.
Yeah.
I do like the one where he uppercuts the guy with the shield, and the guy gets some serious air, 3-4 feet from under the chin as he bucks it up under him there. So,
and the chin stays intact. That's what you don't. I mean, it's jelly inside the mask, but
well, it's vibranium, right? So there's no vibration.
It's like what was in the script? I think Howard Stark says it's like when you're shot with when you're hit with or someone shoots a bullet at you, it's like getting hit with a cotton ball. I think is how he described it. That line was cut out, but yeah, that's essentially how everything is. Like, he's not going to feel anything. It's all fine.
Perfect.
I was looking at the way that he uses the shield, and this is that point where, like you were saying, Jay, it's exciting to see him using it. I mean, it's very violent the way he's using it, but it all looks really cool. It's the interesting thing about Captain America is how much he not only uses the shield defensively, which is what a shield is for, but offensively. I mean, he really uses it as a tool to attack often, and he does it a lot here. I mean, he defends himself a number of times.
You don't see that in other movies, right? I mean, this is pretty unique to this particular character using a shield offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really it's very interesting the way that it works, and it's fun to see. I mean, he hits people's gun arms with it. He cuts them across. I mean, I always kind of cringe when it's a hit with the edge of the shield, because I can only imagine how much that actually hurts.
Like in Winter Soldier, when he takes the guy on the boat, right on the sternum. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's brutal with those hits, and he does that, pretty early here. He swings across a guy's face right at like 24 seconds into this minute with the edge of the shield into his chin, and I think that's the one you were talking about, Pete. My
wife does worry about the henchmen, the goons, whatever they're called in this particular case.
They're just called Hydra troopers. Yeah,
like about their safety and their recovery.
Yeah, because it's like, this guy's the hero, but I'm sure he's like, I tell her, you got to take him down, because if they get back up, then they're going to come after you. So
yeah,
and after being hit like that, do they want to survive? Really, what would life be like?
That's a dark thought.
I mean, what kind of insurance does Red Skull offer too?
What kind of coverage?
It's called cyanide capsules in your tooth.
That's exactly.
Insurance that he offers.
I was going to say it was Red Cross, but okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's terrible.
That's good. It takes a second, but it keeps giving.
Yes,
that joke. It just keeps giving. Red Cross.
I do have a question, because he is surrounded by Hydra troopers and vehicles and stuff. There are at about 15, 16 seconds into this minute, there are 2 guys who run past in the back, and we'll see people dressed like this throughout, but they're basically in regular old military outfits, and they don't look like were they like the Hydra mechanics who got caught in the crossfire here? Like, they just look like they don't have weapons. They're just out here. And I'm like, where did these guys come from? And I'm trying to rack my brains thinking back to like the factory floor. Like, were there some Hydra, assistants who aren't dressed out in the regular Hydra garb?
Assistants? Like just straight up red shirts. What second was it again? I'm back.
About 16 seconds. You see them.
It's
two of them running.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of Captain America: The First Avenger.
What would I give for that movie?
I love that. And you do see them again as,
I see.
As
You're
we
right.
get to the end of the minute. This is after the flamethrower guys, which we haven't even talked about yet. But as everybody surrounds him, you see them again on the top left, and you see 3 of them on the bottom right. So there are a bunch of these guys about. I was curious to know, what is the role of these people here?
Well, if this wasn't World War II, I'd say these were the two guys from 1917.
God.
But if it wasn't World War II.
I know. I'm just saying, like in my little fantasy world, these guys have a mission. Like they're Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. That's exactly what they're doing. These poor guys. They have a mission. They're like loading ammo clips. That's what they do.
Well, if we look real carefully, maybe you can see the one-take camera crew running behind them as they follow them through all of this.
Yes.
Oh, boy. All right.
Are you done with me? Are you done with me? Is that what you just said? I think you're done with me.
So, all right. So we got the knock on the door. How does the knock on the door work for you? As you saw the motorcycle head toward this door, in your heads, like when you first saw this, did you go, oh, there's the knock on the door?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like too obvious or it doesn't feel too cheeky.
No, in fact, I still contend that another funny way to play this whole thing is to go straight from why can't we go knock on the door in the briefing room to the motorcycle running into that door. Like that would have been an awesome cut. Like we could have done without the chase and without this fight before the knock on the door. Like this could have happened after the knock on the door and it would have made for a great joke, like a great immediate 1-2 joke. So you're welcome.
Yeah, because you could still have had this fight, but you just start with the explosion is what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
It still would have felt like they were really just next door though. Like let's go around the corner.
Wait a minute. You think it would have felt more next door?
No, I'm just teasing.
If we get rid of the travel time? Your cantankerousness knows no bounds, friend.
I know. I'm unruly today. That's right. All right. Well, I do like the knock on the door. I think it works well in context of what we're trying to do here in the film. And we've got him now blowing up the door with his motorcycle that was on autopilot. We very briefly cut inside, which I thought was, I didn't think it was necessarily necessary to see, but I guess there's a level of us showing that, there is now a way in, if that was the idea here. I mean, it doesn't seem to be the actual idea that they had come up with, but I like that it shows that, that motorcycle thing was rigged with some serious stuff.
Yeah, for me, it was just that continuation of the momentum of the explosion as we see the motorcycle hit, and then the explosion continues to move frame right with the way that the motorcycle was going to just show the impact, right? It just blew whatever inside and, knocked down 1 or 2 guards inside there.
Yep, exactly. No, yeah, it's nice. I like the way that it's structured here. And as Steve continues fighting, we get to this point in the fight as he takes out Hydra Trooper after Hydra Trooper with his shield, without his shield, whatever it is he's doing a great job at it. And then we have the 2 flame troopers appear, and they each have flamethrowers on both arms, and they basically set themselves opposite him so that they can kind of create this diamond shape of fire that Steve, I guess, can't get out of.
Flame on.
Yeah. I want how many times do you think they said that on set with Chris Evans here?
It's like it could have been the Human Torch.
I think Joe probably let him say that a number of times.
I just thought that was a funny scene, considering that the last, I guess, superhero franchise we saw him in was as the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four. So to see him surrounded by flame it might be a slight nod to that.
Well, we certainly had the synthetic man earlier, which also was a nice little nod to it. So
Toro.
Right. Yeah.
Or not fun. Toro, the original Human Torch, yeah.
Right. My question, though, was, is there a reason that we should expect him to stop because of the fire?
The question becomes, for me, what is his intention? Do we really think he is intending to, by himself, go beat up everybody in Hydra, which goes back to my initial read on the minute 3 days ago,
You're
4
all
days
alone,
ago,
buddy.
that he's all alone, right? Or is it, as now I have been disabused of that poor reading of the movie, that he just wants to get inside, right? That's his objective. His objective is to cause enough of a ruckus that the door opens and he can go in so that, events ensue. I at this minute, without moving forward, that's where I believe that we are headed.
I have a similar read that it was up to this point, he was just making enough of a ruckus, and that is a good stopping point where he's like, okay, I think I've got their attention now.
Yeah.
They will take me to where I want to go anyway, so I'm just going to let them.
Right.
Because these are minions, right? And that's what they do.
Yeah. And I mean, it works well in context of that. Like, I don't know, if Schmidt were more of a level-headed sort of character, sometimes I wonder if he would have thought about this a little more and realized, he could have easily probably just leapt over those guys and or thrown his shield and done something to get away from them. Should I be expecting him to be planning something? But I guess, to Schmidt's, great failure, and he's unable to kind of see that Steve might actually be plotting something, right? And
I do like that. If Schmidt was more level-headed
and had thought through things, he is not, and he did not, because he's psychopath and played well, like one. Like, of course, like this would be his, because he feels like he is in this position of authority and power over this now subservient other, creation from,
right.
The super soldier serum.
To that end, as you're watching this, though, it does feel like for us, the audience who's in on we're going to knock on the door, that's exactly how we're going to do it. It does kind of feel like, oh, okay, this is just part of their plan. He's letting himself get captured here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And again, this is a satisfying moment with that, because you're like, oh, he's getting captured, but I don't think that, they're expecting him, to have, like you said, a plan. And it's going to be an exciting, moment when that confrontation happens. It just builds that anticipation for what's to come next.
Right. Well, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's minute, because we're going to have a lot to discuss about the conversation that goes on between Steve and Schmidt about that very thing. So, all right. Well, Steve does get captured. These flame troopers turn off their flames, and lo and behold, there are a lot of Hydra troopers now surrounding Steve. It looked to be about 50 Hydra troopers. There were two guys with those arm cannons that he ran into on the train, and of course the two flame troopers. And then, like I said, there's those 5 random guys, the engineers, or the guys who change the oil on the vehicles. I'm not exactly sure what they are. Very non-Hydra.
The Hydra pit crew.
Hydra crew, yeah.
The pit crew. And then we go inside. We're heading inside the headquarters to a familiar location. This is, of course, Schmidt's office lab that we have seen a number of times throughout the film. This is where Schmidt was getting his portrait done. Unfortunately, I was a little disappointed. No sign of that hanging on the walls anywhere. I was really hoping we'd get to see that. He must have taken it to his bedroom or something. Not exactly sure. Who knows what he did with that? All right. And do you want to talk at all about any of the start of this scene, or do you want to just wait till tomorrow's minute?
I say we hold it.
Yeah.
That's my vote.
Let's hold it. All right. Well, Jay, remind everybody again about what you're up to out there on the interwebs.
Well, you can find all of the podcasts that I host and the writing assignments that I work on over at retrozap.com. We've got a show over there called Enjoy Stuff, which is a podcast, a techno retro podcast that we talk about 70s and 80s stuff and what we enjoyed back then and how we, enjoy it today. And we find the fun in everything there. So no time for negativity, all sorts of fun stuff. If you like talking about, Scooby-Doo or horror movies and stuff, that's some of our October listening that we had done recently.
So I shouldn't bring my grumpy get off the lawn persona.
No. We, there is enjoyment to be had in that, but it's more kind of like pointing at the old man, and making fun of him, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, check that out, everybody. You can check out all of Jay's projects over at retrozap.com. Thanks as always, Jay. And Pete, thank you.
We'd be having fun if it weren't for you lousy kids.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega. And this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.